everybody, let's get started. You're right in this room if you're here for the course on education economics. I see heads nodding. I see that no people are leaving the room, so that means we're in the right room, you're in the right room. My name is Jan Marcus. I'm professor here for applied statistics, and I'm very much interested in education economics. And with me is Viktor Rudakov, who's a research associate in my group. He will tell you a bit more about his research interests as well, but we're both very much interested in the economics of education. So it's the first time that we're teaching this course, and we're very excited to have this course here and to have it together with you. Let's provide a short overview of what we're going to do today. First of all, we tell a bit more about the course. What are the contents of the course, what are the goals, what do we hope to achieve with you in this course. Then we'll go a bit more into the formalities, tell you a bit about the course schedule, so that's I think very good for you for planning, about the course requirements and where to find the materials for this course. So these are more the administrative things where we kind of talk about the rules of the game. And then kind of in this third part for today, the first two parts are more like motivation and general description of the administrative things for this course. And we will go a bit more to the content of education economics. What is actually the economics of education? And how does that relate to our course? Okay. The course is called Education Economics, and surprisingly, the course introduces you to the economic analysis of education. So you know that education is a very broad topic. It's not that just us as economists care about that. I mean, there's kind of a whole discipline called education science. In German, it's Erziehungswissenschaften. Sociology, they care about it. Psychology, they care about it. So many disciplines, but we will have like a specific economic lens, a specific economics perspective from that, and we will discuss what's actually why do we economists care about that, and what can we do, what can we contribute to this overall literature research on education. Okay, so in this course we deal with how education decisions are made, both by individuals and by their families. We will also focus on the impact that education has on individual earnings. That's more kind of the benefits at the individual level. And we will extend that, not just look at earnings, but a broader picture. And then we will kind of also take like the economic or societal perspective. What are kind of the benefits for economic growth of education? We will also look at effects of specific education policies on both efficiency and equity. And already here by the words, like the impact, the effects on, you can see like one perspective that economists contribute like to education science, and that's the causal perspective. And that's also a perspective that we will pursue in this course. So we will focus here also on strategies to identify cause and effects, to see how they are applied to the economics of education, and what can we answer with these type of causal effects strategies. Okay. Topics that we cover include also human capital theory. So this is kind of where we have more a link to microeconomics. Job market signaling or signaling theory in general. That's also a link to economic theory, particularly microeconomics, and returns to education in general. So when we say returns to education, we mean what are the effects of having a specific high school teacher on earnings, on your health, on your job stability, on voting behavior, and whatever. But it's not just about effects of schooling, specific school degrees, but we will also cover the issue or the topic of higher education. So you university education. Is there any good evidence that actually pursuing a master's degree causally increases your wages? We will look at that. Or is it just a selection effect? In the sense that individuals with better labor market prospects, with better earnings prospects, that they're more likely to enroll to university. But the university does not add anything to the wages. We will look at that. How to identify these effects, how to separate the selection of specific individuals in specific degrees in school or in specific universities or specific university programs, how to separate the selection from the true causal effect. But we will not only look at higher education, we will have this education as a lifelong process here. That means we will start with, we will also focus on early childhood. So that's preschool, with early childhood education, kindergarten, so everything that happens before school, higher education, and further education. That's a bit like on the job. Because we're both at the professorship for applied statistics. So that's kind of a course related to the content of education economics, but we will to education. But we will also have this bit of method perspective in terms of data analysis and, as I mentioned before, like this causal methods. Because we think that education economics are a field where these methods can really contribute a lot and can be very helpful. And actually, this is something that did not work so well in the past, where kind of a lot of policy recommendations were made based on correlation space. And we will discuss how important it is to really have a causal story in mind and strategies really to identify, credibly identify causal effects. So the course has an empirical focus, but we want to make these links to macroeconomic theory, to economic theory, and also to real empirical research. So this you will kind of also get in context or contact with key empirical what you will also do is that you will see policy relevant examples from very important published articles in this field, and you will gain hands-on experience with the statistical software, namely Stata, to analyze educational data. That includes also not just German data, but also international data. So with this course, we hope that we have both connections to economic theory, but also kind of to your other quantitative courses that we have, like econometrics, etc., statistics before, that we kind of have a bridge to regarding the topic that is at least of large interest to the two of us, namely education. The causal methods we will cover in this course are randomized controlled trials, experiments, where it's the researcher who assigns individuals randomly to individuals who receive a policy or an intervention or a treatment, and others who are randomly allocated to not receive. That's a very strong strategy to identify cause and effect. But as you can imagine, in education economics, particularly there, it's often not feasible to do. We cannot randomly allocate people, at least not in general, say, okay, you're allowed to participate, you're allowed to enroll at a master's course, but you're not allowed to enroll in a master's course. That would be ethically not feasible for good reason. But we will discuss kind of what would be the benefits of such a randomized control trial, but that's nothing where we can stop. Because kind of many questions that are of interest to us, that's why we can't do RCTs, randomized control trials, but where we have to use other methods. And we will cover these other methods as well. Some of them you might have heard about it. If not, it's also not an issue, but I guess many of you have heard about instrumental variables approach. That's also kind of a very common strategy to identify cause and effects. Difference and differences is a strategy that I have applied very often in my papers. I think that's something that works very well in the German context. Here you have the treatment group that you observe before and after they received a specific intervention, whatever that intervention is, and you have a control group that you observe at the same time, but the control group did not have the intervention. And in Germany, education policy is the subject of the federal states. We have 16 states, so that means often when one state introduces a reform, the other states can serve as the control. And so this naturally leads to a difference in difference strategy where we compare the same set of states before one of the states or some of the states implemented a reform and afterwards. But in education economics also the regression discontinuity design, or shorthand RDD, is very popular, and we will also discuss specific examples. Here the idea is there's some kind of somehow arbitrary rules that assign individuals to treatment and to control. And in education economics, one example is the high school GPA. So that Notendurchschnitt beim Abitur. So the high school GPA determines whether you're allowed to enroll in some programs or not. But maybe some individuals, let's say someone with a 2.2 and someone with a 2.3, they're very, very similar in their characteristics. It's a bit of luck that one got a 2.2 and the other 2.3, but the one with the 2.2, that is allowed to enroll to that program, but the one with the 2.3 is not allowed to enroll. So that's kind of a local can be seen as a kind of local randomization. And that by means of that we can exploit or examine the effect of being enrolled in that program. That's kind of just very short on this idea of the regression discontinuity design. All these are kind of the causal strategies that we will cover, always having in mind that it's related to education economics. Okay, so what are the practical relevance of attending this course? And you see we're right on the commercial block here for this course. So we hope that you will gain through this course a good understanding of key theories and evidence on the education and policy evaluation. So it's kind of both on the theoretical side, but mostly on the theoretical side. You gain kind of experience in applying the causal inference method, so you will not only learn about them, but you will also see how they're implemented in statistical software, and you will see, so you will be kind of directly within research. Then you will see how these methods are applied, and we will kind of critically discuss. And with this course, our aim is also to provide you with an improvement in your skills in handling, analyzing, and interpreting educational data sets. And I mean, here we put it on with respect to education, but I think if you know how to handle and analyze these kind of data, you're also way more likely and able to analyze different kinds of data. And so I think this learning goes beyond just education. We think that this course matters for your career, or that's our hopes. Both in academia and outside of academia. In academia, I think we hope to provide a strong foundation for you if you're about to pursue or think about pursuing a PhD. And you learn about like one field of economics, education economics, but you don't only learn about like that field and kind of key papers in that, but you, in a more broader sense, you learn a lot about specific methods that are useful not just in education economics, but also beyond. And also kind of in this relationship between economics, education, and public policy. And also what is kind of the perspective that we as economists can contribute to this broader field. I think that also helps to think about what is it actually what we learned in our studies so far. Why is that helpful? How can we help contributing to this society? And we think that these skills that we acquire here, that they're also helpful outside of academia. So of course when you go to something like education ministry or NGOs or consulting that's related to education, that's very clear. But I think that we hope that these skills are also broader, that particularly like this scientific paper reading skills and empirical skills that you gain that they will be helpful in many different domains outside of academia, like in international organizations as well, or when it comes to like jobs as a data scientist. Here you get hands-on experience in working with data. And so what we want to teach you is how to turn educational data into evidence-based policy recommendations in research and applied. And I think if you can do that in one domain, like education economics, so this relationship between data and evidence-based policy making, can be also applied to other. Okay. So that's kind of a rough idea of what we cover in the course. We go in more detail about that, and what we hope to achieve with you in this course. Next, we would like to tell you a bit more about who we are and what we do, so that you have an idea of understanding from that. So as I mentioned before, my name is Jan Marcus. I started about 3 years ago as a professor for applied statistics here at Gefei-FIONA. You see, it's applied statistics. So I really like to do this empirical stuff, apply to real-world data and to kind of real-world issues. And I do this particularly in education economics. So that's why I'm very happy to be able to teach this course for the first time. And what I do is I focus a lot on this causal stuff. So in my research, I do a lot with identified cause and effects of specific policies. So for instance, some of you may know I have been affected by the German G8 reform, which kind of shortened the time to obtaining the A-levels equivalent Abitur. So in the past, in many states, it was 13 years required, and then many states at different point in time switched to a system where it was only 12 years. And then so this kind of the reason why this reform was introduced was not kind of directly related to education or education research. It was not some kind of pedagogical master plan, but it was an economic argument. The main argument for this reform was bring people earlier to the labor market and let them contribute for a longer period to the social security system. So that was an economic argument, and we kind of look at what are actually the effects of this reform. I also have several papers where I look at tuition fees. And if you know that in Germany, states or some states introduced general tuition fees, but then kind of abolished them later. And we look at what are actually the effects of that. So for instance, with the study of tuition fees, the contributions also to think that who should pay for higher education? Is it the general public, or is it the individuals that benefit from it? And what are the economic arguments for saying it should be funded by the general public? That's something that we will cover in this course as well. So we have the lens of economists into it. And kind of in the last couple of years, I also focused a lot on meta science, where I focused a lot on reproducibility. And here we will also kind of deal a bit with that, because we have to provide code in the end for a paper that allows to exactly reproduce your results. But you also gain some help in how to do that. And with this, I hand over to Vic.
So I'm Viktor Dekov. I'm a postdoctoral researcher in the Department of Applied Statistics, and my main interests are also education economics, labor economics, and higher education studies. So also, if you haven't yet chosen a master thesis, the department where you want to do a master thesis, you're also very welcome to join and be supervised by the department for various topics in education economics we'll talk today about. And currently I'm a research fellow at the School of Business and Economics at the University of Berlin and also the Open Institute, and a guest researcher in the German Center for Higher Education and Science Research. And formerly I worked at Higher School of Economics Moscow and the Moscow office of the World Bank, where we also carried out research using real data in the context of the Russian labor market. Okay, so I think we already introduced ourselves. It would be very nice to, if you could introduce yourself as well. There is some kind of scheme which you can use, and so I would suggest we can start from here.
You don't have to follow this exactly.
Yeah, not this exactly.
So now it's your chance to tell us everything.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Adrian. My educational background is in international economics and Spanish and Portuguese. I'm doing my master's here in economics. I do have prior experience using staking power. Motivation for studying economics of education is that I did my bachelor's thesis on education, economics of education, measuring like educational efficiency and its development in Latin America using anthropometrical variables, and the expectation from the course is diving deeper into methods, probably.
Okay, great, thank you.
My name is Jonas Kuhn, and I'm studying public economics. And I have no experience with startup, but a little bit with IR and basic bachelor knowledge of econometrics. And I have no concrete expectation for this course, but let's see.
Okay.
My name is Alex. I'm doing my master's in economics. I had some experience with data like a couple of years ago, but honestly I already forgot most of it, and I don't have any expectations for it. I mean, I chose the course because I don't know much about the economics of education, so that's why I chose to learn a bit. It seems to be interesting.
Hi, my name is Anita, and I study public economics and masters, and I did my bachelor in political science and economics. And I have already a course in STADA. It was very easy. I think there's basic knowledge, is not much more, and the matrix also. And my motivation for studying here is I'm very interested in education and maybe the effect of economics and higher education. And yes, and the expectations are low, I think.
Since you are in the right place. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, hi, my name is Hannes. I'm also studying economics and master. And my motivation for choosing this course was that I'm planning to write my master's thesis next semester, so I was looking for courses with an empirical focus because I have some experience with R and data, but I'm trying to even get better at it, and so choose courses with practical empirical focus. And as I think that economics of education is quite interesting, which is this course.
Great.
Yeah, so my name is Paul. I'm also doing a master's in economics. Before I also did bachelor's in economics, and I got some experience with data and R from an internship and from the bachelor's, but only basic knowledge, I guess. And my motivation is that I also did 2 seminars in the bachelor's on education economics, so it's kind of an interest of me, the economics of education. Yeah, my expectations are also like learning some new methods and applying those methods on data sets and stuff. Yeah.
Where did you obtain your undergraduate degree?
In Kiel.
In Kiel, okay. And who was the instructor
Of
of the education? Jens Uhrhose?
Huh?
Jens Uhrhose?
I know Jens Uhrhose, but it was not him.
Yeah, it was not-
Yeah, but it was not him.
Oh, so very cool that you have already some courses.
Yeah.
Would be interesting to see what they did and how that.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Yeah, so I'm Hugo, I'm an Erasmus student from Spain. Like in my country I do a double bachelor, economics and international studies, but here I do Erasmus courses mostly. I have some STADA knowledge, but it was from years ago, in econometrics. And my expectation from the course, apart from the whole education learning, like educational economics learning, also the policy evaluation, I also am very interested in that. More generally.
Hi, my name is Gefei. And I'm interested in this because of in my bachelor study, and I got my bachelor thesis in the kind of distribution and the inequality in society and etc. So I think this kind of topic more or less covers the same area of the equal interest, and so I kind of prefer this course to attend this semester. And also that I got a little bit experience with data, but not very familiar with that. And I more or less like the R Studio, and I got Schließen Statistik and an introduction in statistics, also in R Studio. So I kind of yeah. I think that this course is somehow very important and interesting to me. And besides, I think my expectations from this course is to get a good grades and to learn more topic in to learn more content in this kind of area.
Okay, thank you. So it seems to have very motivated students for this course. Okay, yes, seems very nice. So maybe let's have a look at the preliminary course schedule. It's preliminary because we haven't yet kind of stabilized number of students, and the schedule depends on number of students we will have, what we will have. So today we introduce you the topic, and then we will talk about human capital theory. Yeah, first of all, lectures will be held every Monday from 12 to 14, and seminars are not that regular. We will have this not every week. For example, today we have no seminar. There will be 8 sessions during the semester. And I don't know, could you please raise your hand, those who received an email from us yesterday? Okay, the others might be not on Blackboard, right?
Maybe I need to look.
Yeah. Either you have to look or you can register. You can send me an email. If you cannot register by yourself, I can register you. I just need your nickname, a full nickname, and that is fine. Okay, so yeah, seminars will be held on Monday from 4 to 6 in the other room. It is a computer class. And next week we will talk about human capital theory, which Jan already presented, and there will be an introductory seminar in data. So for those who have no experience in data, it can be kind of useful. So you can learn the basic synthesis, and we will talk about how to implement different statistical techniques there as well, basic ones in this seminar. Then we will talk about job market signaling theory, which is alternative to the human capital. By the way, have anyone heard about human capital yet? What is this? No? Yes? Do you have a labor economics course? Anyone?
It's a salary wage or
Okay.
monthly wage. Yeah.
Okay, nice. We will learn that, hopefully. So, yeah, for example, human capital theory states that education is productive, right? You, by getting education, you get new skills and knowledge that will lead to the returns in the labor market. And according to job market signaling theory, this is a bit different. So education is not necessarily productive, but rather works as a signal of the labor market, because getting education has different costs for those who are, like, individuals might be with high abilities and low abilities, and individuals with high abilities have lower cost to get education, thereby they're more likely to get higher education, and by this they can signal employers about their abilities. So this is a kind of competing explanation of the link between education and labor market. Then there will be applied session on causal methods of educational research, where Jan will deliver a lecture on RCTs. Then we will talk about returns to education and how to measure education as well. By the way, any ideas how education can be measured? Yes?
Student outcomes.
Student outcomes. Okay, like test results or what? Okay, test results. This is more about quality, but about quantity. How do you measure quantity of your education, let's say? Yes?
The students enrolled in the university or high school.
So like a degree you received, right? Or
No, like the ones who are now in uni or in high school.
okay, but so any other? Yes.
The years?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. The most common is years of schooling. So this is the most common indicator. But the problem is that sometimes it can be misleading because it doesn't account for the quality of education. You can also repeat grades, and so thereby your years of education will be higher, which doesn't necessarily mean that you get a better education. So yes, there are different measures of education as well as various tests. International assessments, we will talk about this, and we will talk about the methodology of how can we measure the returns to education. Meaning that, like how, for example, additional year of education increase your salary. This can be an example of returns to education. Then there will be free, also we will have a seminar, kind of continuation of introduction to Stata, and then I will also ask you to present in a team to prepare a short presentation on source of educational data. For example, you can present a socioeconomic panel if someone worked before, right? Have you heard about socioeconomic panel? Yes? Okay, so any other educational data sets? Like PISA, for example? No? Okay, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, then it's good that we'll be able to present this. So your task will be to present the data set, and it can be useful also for your like last parts of the project of the course, which we will do. And then there will be 3 sessions on causal methods, which Jan already presented. Instrumental variables, if there is a difference, regression discontinuity design. What is also good, so you will have a lecture, then you will have a short break, and then you will have a seminar at this day on this particular topic. So first we will learn theory on that, and then we will implement this together in data. And then we will talk about different stages of education, from early childhood to school, higher education, and educational labor market outcomes. There will be open science lecture, and as you can see, there is also scheduled a presentation of early proposals and continuation of the topic. So this means that you will have a term papers, which we will also talk about this a bit later. And finally, you are supposed in the last 2 sessions present your research project. Okay? So is it clear? Good. So now we will talk about what we expect from you. Actually, you will have 3 major things you have to do during the course. The first thing is that you have to prepare a 10-minute presentation of 1 research paper from the reference list. The reference list, I will upload this on Blackboard very soon. And you have to choose 1 particular paper and present it during the lectures. And you have to prepare a presentation itself, as well as 2 questions posed to other students. And also, of course, be prepared to answer the questions from other students and from the course instructors. You're also expected to participate in discussions during the classes. And the most important thing you have, if you have a course project, a term paper. So the good thing is that there is no exam, but the bad thing is that you have to prepare actually a term paper. You can do it in 2 ways. So one, you can choose it actually. One is a project proposal, other is replication of an existing study. I will also present in more details a bit later. First of all, regarding presentation. So as I mentioned, you have to choose a research paper from the reference list, and I will also upload in the Blackboard a Google Sheet where you can book the slot for this presentation. And you have to choose the paper by October 3rd. Okay? And then, so... Oh, of course, yes, yes, November 3rd, definitely, yes. So you prepare this presentation individually. We are also expect that there will be no more than 3 presentations during one particular seminar, and actually all presentations, they start from December 15th. So in the beginning we'll have kind of theoretical lectures, then applied methods, and then it will be like specific for each stage of education, and there you are expected to present your papers. You have to prepare approximately 10 PowerPoint slides, and what is also important, please send me your presentation by Wednesday of the week before your presentation. Okay? Because otherwise it will be hard for me to And yes, and be prepared to answer questions from the audience and from course instructors. The expectations from your presentation are the following. First of all, I hope like the main expectation is that you really understand the paper and also make other students also understand the paper. And of course, other students are also supposed to read these papers before the seminar, but your task as a presenter would be to kind of present this paper so that other students would also understand. And even I also will understand, like all of us will understand together this paper. You're also expected to critically evaluate the paper because any paper has its strengths and weaknesses, and you can kind of try to formulate what you think might be in this paper, what can be improved, or what can be the main limitations of this paper. Yeah, it should be like logical flow of your presentation, clear slides, and effective time management because we don't have that much time. You have to be very strict in the schedule, so 10 to 12 minutes. And yeah, confident delivery, clear explanations, and good interaction with the audience. Is it clear, or you have some questions on the presentation? Okay, good. Then the course project. The first option for you is to prepare a project proposal. So the idea is that you choose a topic within the economics of educational literature and try to design a realistic study. But so we kind of try to save your time and not make it too difficult. So it's without data analysis, but it should include some schematics, data, comments inside. Yeah, and so you have to prepare a proposal which includes introduction, where you formulate a research problem, research question, and your contribution, some literature review. You also are expected to link your study to the lecture material. Describe the data. For that, actually, the seminar with various data sources which you're going to present will be very useful. So you will already be able to look at some data and think about what kind of research can be done based on this data. You're also expected to present the methodology in detail. So not just, okay, we are using OLS method, but well, dependent variable is this. My like regressors are this, why we use it, right? So we use, for example, like OLS is a baseline, and then we do some of the causal methods, which we will study during this course. Yeah, you have to add some schematics, data, comments with explanation, and expected results, which is might be optional. You're supposed to prepare a written paper of 12 to 15 pages, and a final presentation in PPT or PDF, depending if you do it in LaTeX or if you do it in PowerPoint, for 10 minutes, and of course you have to be able to answer the questions on the project. So this is option 1. Okay. Yeah.
The idea is here really to almost write a complete paper, but because this is just a seminar paper and it sometimes takes time to get to know the data or to acquire the data, we're kind of skipping that part. Because then it would be unclear whether it's feasible actually to write it. But here it should be almost, you have done everything that you could. Now if you have the data, just run everything. So it should be rather detailed in the variables, the methods that you're using, the contribution. So as close as possible to like a real empirical paper.
Yeah.
That's the one option.
Yes. So yes, Jan raised very important question. So sometimes data is not that easily accessible, but normally data documentation with description of the variables and availability is available. So by looking at, for example, socioeconomic panel, you can have a look what kind of variables are there, try to think if it's doable or not to do a research on this topic, but you don't have to do this research because it might take some time to get the data. In some cases it might be too difficult, and so yeah, that's the point why we did this. And the second part is computational reproduction of existing study. So the idea is that currently there are many papers published in top journals, and they include also a data set and the code. So the task for you is to choose one of the papers carry out computational and robustness reproduction of its result. This means that you have to try to replicate the results you have in the paper based on their code and data, and check if it works or not. And also try to conduct additional robustness check. For example, you can think they haven't done something, they haven't estimated it by gender groups, or they do some wrong years, or maybe even you can think, okay, so they use difference, why not to use regression discontinuity design, maybe something like that. So that will be a part of this additional robustness checks. And also you are expected to prepare a complete state to-do file, which documents all the steps. And a written report. I will also upload on Blackboard the example of this replication report, because recently Jan organized Berlin replication games, where actually many researchers made this exercise, and there is a very good, nice form of the report, which can be used for this purpose. And also you are supposed to prepare a presentation of PPT and PDF for 10 minutes, which you present in one of the two last sessions, and you'll be able to answer the questions on their production process and results. Okay? Any questions on that? Seems doable? Okay. So there is a schedule for this project. So first of all, by December 8, you have to choose the type of the project. I am going to do the project proposal for a replication study, and choose a topic and send it to me with the subject, course, project type, and the topic. And then you will have, during our seminars, you will have some opportunities to present your early research. First of all, you present an early proposal and confirm the topic with the instructor on January 5th. So you will present, and we will discuss if it's doable or not, because sometimes it might be a really brilliant research idea, but it appears that there is no good data set, or it's not feasible to do this. So we will discuss and confirm. You confirm the topic, and then on January 19th we will also have a consultation of on the research project if needed. So you can attend. If you have questions, you cannot attend. If it's not the case, I would of course advise to attend, because actually on January 21st you are supposed to prepare the final version and send it to us, and then you will have two sessions on which you will present the project in class. Okay? So have one dropout. Okay. Then software and course materials. So we already discussed, we use Stata as a primary tool for the analysis. Stata is available on a few computers, first of all, and also it can be downloaded using the link in these lectures via Sedat service. You might know this, right? So you can, if you have full email and credentials, then you can download it. And of course, all materials, lectures, readings, data work files, data set will be uploaded to the Blackboard folder. This is a recommended reading. So actually, there is not a so-called common textbook on education economics, because the field is quite young. There are several textbooks, but yeah, so we would recommend the following. First of all, there is a handbook of economics of education, written by Hanushek and Dössmann. The second is a textbook of Brewer and McEwen on economics of education. So the first book can be found in the is available in internet using electronic resources at FU. The second book is available in the library. And Borjas labor economics also can be useful, because it presents quite well topics like human capital and job market signaling, because of course there's an intersection of education economics and labor economics here. Yeah.
I can add to that, because you mentioned that education economics is a rather young field. Yeah? So the first time that economists cared about education was mostly in the context of labor market. Yeah? So for a very long time it was seen as a subfield of labor economics. So education was to improve human capital, to improve the productivity of the workforce. but since then, I think the field has gone like a wide transformation, so that economists now care about a wider range of issues related to education. But still kind of many conferences, and labor conferences, research conferences, we still see that education plays a relevant role. And that's also why here in Mocha's textbook, it's called labor economics, but still it's very relevant for education economics as well, and vice versa.
Yes, and there are several good textbooks on applied methods. Maybe you are familiar with some of them. So first of all, there is just a basic textbook of Woodridge on introductory econometrics, which is also available in the libraries of FU. But mostly for causal methods, you will need these two. First one is more like where these methods are explained like with intuition, but without difficult formulas. So if you are afraid of big statistical stuff and these formulas, then this can be a book of your choice, where everything is explained nicely with some figures, diagrams, etc. And the second one is a bit more complex, but still a very nice book of Scott Cunningham. Both of them are available online, and they are interactive because they're also Stata codes, R codes, and Python codes, where you can do exercises by yourself. So this is can be very useful as a preparation for the practical session, as well as a preparation for your course project, for your term paper. Yeah. And there is also a kind of a standard book in causal studies, mostly harmless econometrics, which is also available in your library. You can use. But I would so you see there are a lot of books. So my personal choice would be to look at Hanushek, maybe also Borjas for topics of labor and for topics of human capital and job market signaling. And here, these two books, Huntington Klein and Cunningham, might be very good. But of course, you are free to use all of them. Right?
So this Engels and Pischke, that's the most advanced, although it has like this harmless word, it's not a title. They also have a follow-up book, it's called Master Matrix. That's, I would say, more unique of the books by Scott Cunningham and Nick Huntington in terms of the difficulty. But kind of this last one is more like a PhD level, but we are nevertheless mentioning it because this is where it goes the most into detail. So if you kind of want to really find out something about a specific issue, then this one is really good. And Josh Hengers, so the first author of that book, he also received the Nobel Prize in economics in 2021, I think it was, partly for the methods on causal inference that he developed, and we will cover these methods as
Actually, let's go.
okay. Okay, so now you see we're in the third block of today. So the first one was kind of motivation and setting the stage, explaining the rules of the game. And now we're going a bit more in the direction of content. What is actually the economics of education? But before we come to that, I would like to give you the chance to ask any remaining question regarding the organization of the course. Because kind of this is the introductory meeting where kind of, we just want to make sure that everyone understands what this course is about and what is kind of required. So you all have understood that in the end, you have to submit a term paper, and it can be one of two options, either replication or a project proposal, which you don't have to kind of do or get at the results. You don't have to do both, just one. And it's kind of up to you. We thought this maybe leaves also room for you that you follow your preferences. So if you desperately want to work with data, then I think I would recommend kind of this replication, because then you have to really submit this data code as well, and you have to execute it. In the other, you have also to do a bit with data, but there it's more about kind of designing an idea for a research project. That can be also kind of a nice stepping stone for your master thesis. I I mean, this is also how we see this course, yeah, that it equips you with economic theory, economic methods, statistical software knowledge, and also confronts you with modern research in economics. Yeah? All of this, yeah, I think, Victor and I agree, are very good kind of stepping stones for an empirical master. And maybe you come to an idea for a thesis throughout this course. Yeah? I mean, this is nothing we can guarantee, but this is something how we designed the course, yeah, that you can kind of keep an eye open for that. Yeah? Can be with respect to the content, can be with respect to the method. Yeah? You see, okay, I could apply this in a completely different setting, but now I understood what RED is, and then I can do it that way. But it can be also with respect to the data sets that you're going to get to. Yeah, that you get an idea of what to do. So I was saying I was looking forward to your questions, and then I kept on talking. So now it's time. Are there any questions regarding the organization of the course? I think it's really important that you are all registered on Blackboard. This is how we communicate. This is where we provide all the materials for the course. This is also where you find this set of slides. I think this will be kind of helpful also when you prepare kind of these for the requirements that you have that you can look at that. If there are no questions, then we're here on slide 19. We have about, I don't know, 54 to go. No, this is not all for today, but this is for the first couple of lectures. This is now just a couple of slides on the economics of education, what it is. Okay, so here's a definition of it. And of course, you've probably seen in the main courses, there are different definitions of these concepts, but here's one that we found very appropriate and useful. So, the economics of education examines how societies, institutions, and individuals allocate resources to education. So you see, resource allocation, that sounds a lot like economics, right? But here it's to education, to a specific field. But that's not everything that the economics of education does. It also examines how educational outcomes are distributed. So you see it's a distributional perspective. But that's not everything. It also studies the production of education. So you hear this term, education production, quite frequently. And this is about inputs and processes. And also the distribution of its outputs and outcomes. And thereby also the consequences of education. And so when I talk to colleagues who are not economists, but also care about education science, then they sometimes be bewildered. So I find it a bit strange how about the language that we use. They would never, like a psychologist, they would never talk about education production. But for us here, this is kind of, it's a bit strange, but it helps because we know this terminology from introduction to economics, introduction to microeconomics, etc. So we know this terminology, but it also helps that we can align with what we've already learned in these other fields, and we can relate it to kind of the scientific findings in these fields. So we can think, okay, well, how is education different from other production functions? Or can we treat it similar? But it helps to think this in the general perspective of economics. So that has to do a lot with utility maximizing, but it also incorporates a lot of insights from behavioral economics. Where we see that maybe this rational utility maximizer is not the perfect, the perfect perspective. That cannot explain everything, but we need additional insights in it. But by using this terminology from other fields of economics, we can align it very well to that. Okay, all questions. include like, any parts of economics. How should limited resources be allocated to achieve efficiency, effectiveness, and fairness? So you see there always kind of this different dimensions, including like fairness, whatever that means. That's what we have to define as well. We will also look at what are the consequences of having education. So what are the returns to education? What are the returns to education for the individual? And what are the returns to education for the society? And I think this latter point is also very relevant when we think about higher education funding. If they're just private returns to education, an economist would say, why shouldn't it be publicly funded? Why shouldn't those that gain that have private returns from that, why shouldn't they pay for education themselves? So we as economists, if we want to justify kind of that the public pays for that, we have to come with ideas, okay, what are returns to education for the society? What are the benefits of that? Okay. And we will also look at how specific institutions and policies influence educational outcomes, because we often have this perspective of a social planner or policymakers that want to kind of change some education policy to improve something. And already by these words, they want to change and improve. You see this is a causal perspective. And this kind of then goes in the direction of evidence policy. Okay. Why should we study the economics of education? You can look at the investment perspective, and that's kind of education spending of the government. But you can also see it as education spending of your own. Right? I mean, here in higher education, we don't have this direct tuition fees, but we still have to pay like a semester fee. But most importantly, you are not having a full-time job. So there are kind of opportunity costs to that. So you're in that sense invested in education. So that's also where we have this common education economics approach. It's an investment. And also you can take the governmental perspective. They also invest. They pay our salaries, for instance, and kind of these buildings. So the government also invests in them. So what are kind of the returns for the individual and what are the returns for the economy or the society? So kind of standard approach is that to look at economic growth, but also something like social cohesion, like voting behavior. Does education have an effect on that in a society level, but also at the individual level through earnings, employment prospects, but they kind of know many more outcomes. So marriage market, does education improve your chances on the so-called marriage market? Again, you see that there's an economic terminology involved there. It's a market.
There will be a paper on that.
There will
be a paper about dating applications and education, and does it increase your chances or not?
So you can put in the student evaluations of high practical relevance. I found my spouse through this course, or now I know how to find it. Okay. I mean, economics of education or education in general is of high policy relevant. We will also look at the efficiency and effectiveness of specific education programs. What should be the correct institutional design here? We do not just think about what is feasible, but maybe we look at also at other countries, how specific institutional settings are arranged there. We have to think also about to broaden the perspective. So there could be the autonomy of schools, of universities. Is it good? Is it bad if they have more autonomy? What does empirics and theory tell about? And kind of the general idea is also to support this policy debate with evidence-based analysis. So that not everyone decides based on what their gut feeling is, but there's a kind of empirical basis to it. So kind of education economics therefore has an important role in decision making as it provides information, control and steering basis for using scarce resources efficiently, effectively, and
so nowadays every film or TV series have a kind of a teaser. So this is a teaser of our course with the main topics we're gonna cover and just some key ideas on these topics. So first of all, it's a human capital theory, as we already discussed briefly. So human capital theory considers education as an investment that might rise your productivity skills and thereby it increase your earnings and labor market prospects. We'll consider the decision making of individuals and societies regarding educational investment. For example, why you decided to pursue a master's. Why don't you work or just complete your bachelor studies and decide, okay, that's enough, right? So there is some basis for these decisions. Probably you expect some payoff from your master's thesis. You might expect that you will earn more than those who graduated just with bachelor degree. Do you? Hopefully, yes. And so there are returns on the labor market for the master's degree, so it seems that probably you are in the right place again. And we will talk about the empirical evidence and policy implications of human capital theory for studies of inequality and economic growth. And then we will talk about job market signaling and screening theory. As I've already mentioned, this is a kind of alternative theory, which states, okay, maybe education doesn't really add anything to you, to your knowledge, or it's not necessary. Maybe what you're sitting here, you just don't have to sit here, you can go and work and maybe, so actually maybe education doesn't add anything. But what does it, why is it important? Because like it can kind of select the most able individuals, and so you got education as a signal in the labor market, and then this signal pays off in the labor market. So you are evaluated not because of your like higher productivity, but rather because you have a higher education degree. And so this is a kind of a large policy debate discussion because like job market signaling theory might expect that. So maybe there is an overinvestment in education. It's not really increasing the productivity. Yeah, we will look at the consequences of this for wages, job matching, and over-education, because in Europe there is also an issue in many countries, the issue of over-education when graduates with a university degree cannot really get graded jobs, and in that sense, education seems a bit excessive for them. Then returns to education, we will discuss private and social benefits of education. We just also had a brief discussion on how to measure education. So we agreed that this can be years, or it can be degrees, or we can measure the quality using different tests, so international assessments. And we will talk about methods to estimate returns and main findings. And we will talk about cross-country comparisons and policy relevance. So where would you expect returns to education to be higher? Let's say in Germany or in, I don't know, in some African country. And why? It is like economic, yeah.
Yeah, I think the returns of education in Germany is higher than Africa continent, and the reason is that they have the they have the high currency ratio compared to Africa continent. So the average educational level in Africa could lower than in Germany. So they after education and they can gain a high wage job in Germany instead of in Africa. So this kind of determines the returning of education capita in Germany.
So you expect in Germany it will be higher?
Yeah.
Okay. One hypothesis. Any other hypothesis? Yes.
Maybe in absolute income, maybe it might greater in Germany, of course. But I think maybe compared to local population, since in Germany everybody has a university degree, it's less valuable comparatively. So maybe if you as a German go to those countries, maybe you live better than you would live here with that title.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, if you look at the wage schooling workers, you could probably assume that in Africa, if you compare, I mean, Africa consists of like 52 countries, but if we look,
Like
for
look at
example,
the average country.
yeah, the average like, country if you compare one person with no schooling to one person that has like some sort of degree of schooling, the divergence might be even higher than in Germany.
So you expect in Africa it will be higher?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I don't know if we should provide the right answer or we can discuss it during the seminar on resource education, but yeah, I would tell, okay, so in Africa it's higher according to the World Bank estimations, but we will talk in more details why during the seminar, okay? Good. Then after we discuss this, but I mean your logic is very correct because like it's a scarce resource and like if there is no one with education and so if you have some basic literacy skills then it is likely that you will have returns. But of course there should be also at least some minimal institutional background, so it will be like some kind of security, etc., so that you might get some returns to education because there might be context when like it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But anyways, in general, like the less level of education the country is, the higher might be the returns. Okay, then we will talk about different stages of education, early childhood education. I don't know if you heard other Nobel laureate Heckman. Yeah? Of course, yeah, knows, but I mean the students. The main idea here is skill formation theory, and according to this theory, early investment in human capital is very important because like what you learn when like you are in early childhood stage really affects how well you learn in the future, and thereby it's very important to invest in early education. And we will discuss some papers which look on the effects, long-term effects of investments in early education on academic achievement, employment, and social outcomes of various groups. So regarding school education, we will discuss with you education production function and peer effects. So education production function is like also an economic production function, so you have some inputs, you have some resources, and so these resources produce some outputs, and we look at factors like teacher quality, class size, school resources, how it might affect some educational outcomes, and also how peer effects might affect these outcomes as well. Like peer effects is like, for example, like you are in this group and how your academic achievement or how your knowledge of economics education will differ depending on like if there are like very strong students here or not very strong students, or there will be some international students, or even if when you graduate from Free University of Berlin, some part of your return to education might be not just only about knowledge, but also, okay, you have some friends who work in some companies, or you belong to some networks, and thereby you can easily find a job so that works making a lot for some top American universities like Harvard. So, for example, you all graduate from Harvard, and then you enter the labor market, you have a lot of connections in the networks, and like this, so these are also so-called peer effect. And so we will estimate the production function of education, how inputs translate into outcomes, and discuss some policy lessons on this resource allocation and school accountability. For example, like what is the optimal class size? Is it good to have like 40 students in a class or 20? For this particular course today, we have a very high student-faculty ratio. We have like one university faculty member per 4 students, now even smaller amount, but I mean, is it good or not? So this is also a kind of discussion of within this education production function. And then we will talk about higher education, inequality, access, dropout, and academic achievement. So, for example, we can study the social and economic barriers to higher education access and completion, because there might be a lot of inequality not only in the labor market but also in the access to education, which might formulate further inequality in the labor market. We may talk about tuition fees, student support systems, how they affect dropout and academic achievement. explore the determinants of academic achievement and persistence. So, and discuss some evidence on widening participation and student support and success policies. Then there is a part which I found one of the most interesting, also like I have a bias here because this is a part of my research interest as well. This is called education and labor market outcomes. I think for you, since you are soon going to the labor market or already there, that might be also of particular interest. So this part examines how education might affect earnings, employment, job satisfaction, job stability, career mobility. For example, we might talk about, does academic achievement increase your future earnings or not? Is it important to study well at the university or not really important? Does anyone combine study and work now? Do you work? Yes? Could you raise your hand? Just estimate, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this exactly, actually, in Germany we have around 60% of students who combine study and work. In this audience we also have a kind of representative sample, it seems. Yeah, so, and for example, like, there will be a paper in the reading list which explores does student employment pays off. So those who combine study and work, will you receive like higher salaries because of this accumulated work experience in the future or not? So there might be, on the one hand, you invest in your human capital, you've got work experience which might bring you returns in the future, but on the other hand, maybe you underinvest in your education because you put some efforts into your work, and thereby it can be like, negative returns or even no returns, so it depends. And so there is a lot of literature. I do research on this topic, and yeah, so this is a topic I'm really interested in, and we will discuss this as well. Then we will talk about how university quality affect earnings and some other things like job education mismatches, like over-education, for example, when you graduate from the university and then work in non-graduate jobs. Let's say you get a degree in humanities and then work in, McDonald's, for example, whatever, right? So this is kind of an example of job education mismatch. And we will talk about lifelong learning, importance in dynamic labor markets. So now technologies, labor market changes so quickly, so that during your work career you will always have to also invest in your education, either by yourself or this should be done by companies. And we will also talk why some companies tend to invest in education while others not. Yeah, and then there's an interesting topic which Jan already raised, is non-pecuniary benefits of education, because the returns to education are not only monetary, but they are also non-monetary. And societies and individuals benefit a lot from education. For example, education might affect your health, how you, for example, addictive and also even like risky and unproductive behavior, life satisfaction. Do you think education increases life satisfaction or not?
Life satisfaction?
Yes. Are you satisfied with your life?
Yes, I think it increases it, but yeah.
You think it might increase, yeah, but what channel might be responsible for that?
I mean, your education is responsible for your economic status, and maybe a higher economic status goes hand in hand with more satisfaction in life.
Okay, yeah, so one of the source of job satisfaction, one of the maybe is your salary, education affects your salary, so, but as you see already from this description, like, it's really hard to find a causal link between education and, for example, like life satisfaction. And so one of the goals of this course, so maybe Jan will contribute to this development of this knowledge of you. So causal methods, they are important so that you try to find the methods by which you can answer this interesting question. And education also might affect social trust. Trust is also important in the society because it decreases transaction costs, for example. Also tolerance, political engagement, and also educational, very important educational role is kind of its effect on intergenerational outcomes. So does does it contribute to more social equity, or it just reproduces inequality? For example, if children of rich parents get a better education, then they get a better labor market outcomes, they become also rich parents, they get invested, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, and so on this part, I would probably again look forward to about the science and then
Yeah.
the methods.
Another point that we also cover is this open science. This is about making research more transparent, and this is kind of the terms that are already reproducibility and replicability, and this is also kind of in one of the two options how to do your term paper, where you kind of try to reproduce the results of a published article, and then see how robust the results are. This is kind of also part of this open science, because we're focusing on students that allow for this, because they make their code and their data available, so they're already kind of good at this open science issues. But we will also look at what are the advantages of that. One advantage is that you can really check whether you get at the same results, and you can check whether you think, oh, they make some strange decisions somewhere. Why did they do that? Why did they exclude, I don't know, individuals older than 30? I would include or exclude individuals older than 25, for whatever reason, and then see whether the results still hold. To see, to have more trust in the results. And this is also kind of particularly relevant in the economics of education. I think I will skip these last two slides. These are again on the methods that we will cover, the strategies to identify cause and effects, randomized controlled trials, instrumental variables, difference of difference, and regression discontinuity design. I briefly explained them, kind of what we went through, what we do in this course. Here it's a bit more flesh to that skeleton, so you can read about it, but we will have this full lecture. I think we already provided you with a lot of input for this first section, or for this first lecture. Therefore, I will stop here, we will stop here, but again, give you the chance to ask any open questions. Okay, remember the deadlines that we put there, go through kind of all the different requirements that you have. So you see we're trying to push you to be active throughout the semester, but it means also that in the end, you are kind of done. When the lecture, or when the exam period comes. But it means you should start now, and start early on everything, because it's not that long to go, but I mean, if you start early, then I think, or hopefully, it's feasible very well to do all. If there are no more questions, then we will see each other next week. There's a lecture at the same time, and there will be the first seminar or hands-on session at 4 p.m. So thanks for joining, and see you next week. Of course, we have specific issues that we have problems in accessing the material for Blackboard. Because this Blackboard registration, that's really important to access this.
One very short question. Is there a reason why these seminars, 2 hours, why there is a 2 hours break in between lecture and
Because I have other teaching and that block. So you would prefer to have it?
ideally, yeah, but I'm not provided with any someone else's lecture.
I have another course in between.
So
I have another course after this course.
Direct.
Before the seminar, yeah. So I have this course, then I have another course, and then I have your seminar again.
Okay, then that's fine. So it's good. Okay. And if you have like ideas like this, you can still try to find out, to find a solution that everyone